Okay, we're back with InDesign. We're going to talk about the tools here. First, I do want to mention a few things. Sometimes your measurements are by default are not inches, and you may want to change those. A lot of times the default is picas, which is a publishing measurement from newspaper days. Um, However, you don't have to use picas, and if you're not familiar with them, you can change that unit. And the way you do it is you go to InDesign at the top of your screen, go to Preferences, and you can just go to General or you can go to any of these specific things. But if I go to General, all those things will be repeated. So here I'm going to go to General, and here all those things are again. And the ruler settings would be here at Units and Increments. And I can change the horizontal ruler from picas to inches, and that's what I would do. And then the vertical ruler I would change from picas to inches. The stroke we would leave as points. That is a typical measurement for the width of strokes. I pretty much don't mess with anything else, but these two things I do make sure that they are inches. You can, if you want a grid, I don't often use one, but you can have a grid that's invisible, does not print. And you can have it start wherever you want to. This one says a grid line every 1 inch with 8 subdivisions, so you know that they're eighths of an inch. So there are other settings here that you can change. Okay. Now the toolbar over here on the left, you have, of course, your black selection arrow, just like other Adobe programs. You have your white direct selection, where you can play with points on vectors and those kinds of things. The page tool will allow you to actually change the dimension of the page if you want to. Let's see, let's talk about the type tool. Okay, let's talk about the type tool. This, of course, is how you enter text, and the way that it works is you can use the tip of your left arrow, and you have to create a place for the type to go. So you would press where you want the column to begin, and you would drag down and to the right until you reach the border of where you want your type to stop, and then you let go. And then inside there you'd have a flashing cursor where the text would begin. And of course you could just start typing here. If you want to use some temporary placeholder text, InDesign will put that in there for you. You can just go up to Type at the top of your screen and go down to Fill with Placeholder Text, and it puts in some Latin that you can use, temporarily, or if you don't need real text, there you go. Okay. Now these text boxes are like window shades. If I click it with my black arrow, I get these white squares that show up on the corners and halfway in between each side. And this is like a window shade. I can drag it down, and the top part of the text stays visible, but then the bottom part gets hidden. And that's what this little red box with the plus sign means. It says, hey, you've got more text here that's not showing. Okay, so you need to be careful about that if you're dealing with an actual article. You could lose part of your article if you're not aware of that. So to get this to show up, you can click directly on the red box, and then your cursor fills with the hidden text. So my cursor is filled with it. I can go up here and just click, and then the rest of that text comes back. And now these two boxes are linked. If I click on this box and roll up the window shade and hide some of the text, notice that it gets bumped and goes down here. And there's still more hidden, so I could click there with the hidden text, and then there it is. And so these are all linked. It's like raising window shades and pushing the text to the next box. So that's how you can create linked text boxes. You could put it all in one text box, hide part of it, click on that red plus sign, click in a new location, and you'll get the rest of the text. And that's how that works. Okay. You also have guidelines that you can pull down from the rulers. You just put your arrow inside the ruler and you press and you drag down, and you'll create these, again, non-printing guidelines. Nothing. The only thing here that will actually print is the text. These are the pink lines, or the margin lines. They will not print. The purple lines are the gutters between the columns. They don't print either. All right. We have we have a line tool, which will you can use to make just straight lines. You can control the color of that line down here. Currently it's white, so I can click down here and say I want it to be black, and then you can play with the width of it, or the point size. Up here in the modifier window, it's by default 1 point, but I could make it more points if I want. There is a pen tool, and this pen tool is just like the one in Illustrator and Photoshop. So you can click, 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 and make a polygon. As you're using this, you need to look at your fill and line, fill and stroke to see what it's set to. This is a fill of nothing, fill of none, and a stroke of white. I can click here and change it to a fill of none and a stroke of black. I can increase the point size of the stroke. If I want a color, I can double click on the fill, and in the pop-up window choose a color and fill it like that. Okay. Other things I can do with the pen tool, I can just instead of clicking, I can press and drag and create a curve shape just the way it does in Illustrator. And then same thing, I can give it a stroke if I want, I can give it a fill color if I want, and I can make really any shape I want to with the pen tool. Okay. The pencil tool, I can just make freehand vector paths, any color that I want, any point size that I want. There's a smooth tool where I can, rub the smooth tool on there and just smooth out the curve that I made a little bit. There's an erase tool hidden under this pencil where I can just erase part of a path like that. Okay. All right. We have these tools are we don't really need both of them. They're frame tools, and then they're polygon tools. But you can change one of these into the other. But a frame tool essentially is a box that will hold a photograph. So here is a box. It's totally invisible. Nothing here would print. But I've just shown you the dimensions. I dragged it out and made it a certain dimension. If I want a photo to go in here, I go up to File, Place, and then I just search on my computer for a photo to put inside of there. And right now I'm waiting for the spinning, there we go, spinning rainbow of death. Okay, let's see. Alright, there's Supergirl painting. Okay, it's a graphic. And now the graphic is bigger than the box, and the graphic is different than the box. The box is, again, a window shade, and then the graphic inside is a full-fledged work of art. So I'm going to use the direct selection arrow, the white tool, and click here, and you can see how now there's this border out there. That describes the edge of the actual artwork, and I can press and drag it down, and I can move it around inside the box until I'm happy with the composition there. Okay, some other things about boxes is I can fit the content to the box, or the box to the content. I've got this box here. It's an object, so I can go up to Object, Fitting, and I'll try this. Fit frame to content. That means the edge of the boxes are going to become as big as the content inside. So watch what happens. Boom. Okay, so that's the entire painting. Okay, so the box edges went all the way out as far as the content. Okay, another thing I could do would be to fit the content um, to the frame. Watch what happens here. The entire thing shows in the frame that I drew, but it's all distorted. It's awful, okay, because my box is not the same proportion. So that would not be a good choice, but it's possible. Okay, let me show you something else. Fitting, I can fill the frame proportionally. So in other words, the content will fill the frame but not distorted like this, and it's one direction. It fills it apparently left and right proportionally, but I still am getting the top and bottom cut off. Alright, again I'm getting the black arrow to select the box. Fitting, fill frame proportionally, fill content proportionally. That means put the entire content in this box but don't distort it. And since they're not proportional to each other, there's space left over, left and right. And then you may do something like this and go, okay, now I can see the whole thing, but I don't need this box to have this extra stuff. You can go fitting, fit frame to content, and now the frame gets as small as the box itself. So that's the way that boxes work. Okay, you can make boxes of any size. You can make them as an ellipse. You can make them as a polygon. And if you want the polygon to be other than a hexagon, you double click on the polygon and you can ask for a certain number of sides, like 8 sides or 3 sides, and turn it into a triangle if you want. All of those same options are here with the graphic boxes or with the rectangle tool, the ellipse tool. And the thing about these is these can be converted into frames also. So just because I start with a rectangle doesn't mean I can't also do file, place, and put it inside there. So honestly, I think they should just get rid of one of these. You don't really need both of them. They're pretty much the same thing. Okay. You can even join these shapes together. Like for instance, I'm going to use, right, there's a rectangle shape. Then I'm going to get the ellipse tool. I'll make an ellipse, and I could join this ellipse to this square with Pathfinder. And if you're familiar with Illustrator, you know what Pathfinder is. It's in a different place here, but I've got to go to Window, Object and Layout, Pathfinder. It's a little bit harder to find here than it is in Illustrator. So I'll go Pathfinder, and then I get a Pathfinder window, little panel here, and this will do a lot of different things. Here's where my most useful options are. If I do this, I combine these two shapes together. In fact, before I do that, maybe I should give them a color. And here's another way to put color in them. I could do it through this fill on the toolbar, or I could do it through the color window itself. I'm just going to give 2 different colors to show you what happens. Okay, I got these 2 boxes, and I could join them together, combine them into one shape. Watch what happens. When I do that, it takes on the color of the shape that's on top, but it does become one shape. Alright. Another thing I can do with Pathfinder is use the top shape to cut a hole in the bottom shape. The top shape becomes a drill. Here's the second option, that's subtract. Okay. There's also intersect, where they overlap, you get a shape. And then there's also exclude overlap, which is the opposite of intersect. Okay, so these are all useful things that you can do. You can turn things into scalloped corners. Like if I get this box here, I can choose these kind of corner options if I need to, or I can just convert the shape if I need to into something else. Okay. I can play with these points too. You know, I can, of course, distort the shapes of these things, but I can actually play with the points just like I would in Illustrator with the direct selection arrow, the white arrow. If I click on the edge here, I'll get these little, you know, the tiny white handles, and these are things I can change. I can move them, press and drag, okay? Or if I need a curve with Pathfinder, I can go here and convert the point into a curve point, and then play with these control handles just like I would in Illustrator. Or the pen tool also has a convert anchor point tool, and I could turn it into that, and then with the white arrow play with these control handles until I get the shape that I want. Okay, so there are some options here for creating shapes. Okay, about as far as making things bigger, let's see. I'm going to go with the free transform tool. Let's just say I want to make this bigger. Okay, I've selected it with the black arrow, and if I just grab the corner and hold down the shift key and grab the corner and drag it out, the picture does not get bigger. The box gets bigger, but the content does not get bigger. But if I use the free transform tool, both the box and the content will get bigger. And again, I held down the shift key so that I didn't distort that. Okay, or the white arrow gives me the content, not the box. So if I specifically select that and press and drag the corner, I make the content bigger but not the box. Okay, so just be aware that in InDesign there are two things. There's a frame and then there's the content inside the frame. And depending on which arrow you have and whether or not you have the free transform tool on, you know, different things will happen. So get to where you know what's going on there. Okay, let's see. Of course, we have a zoom tool where we zoom in, and if you hold down the option key, it'll turn into a minus and you can zoom out. All right, and then pretty much anything that you choose will have its modifiers up here at the top. For instance, I'm going to type headline, and as far as dealing with text, if I'm inside a box and I've got the flashing cursor, if I want to change the font or the size and I've got the flashing cursor and I'm in the edit mode, that means I need to drag, let me zoom in so you can see what I'm doing. That means I actually have to drag and highlight the text before I make a change, like a font change or a size change. Ugh, what an awful font. Okay. There we go. Okay. All right. But if I get the black arrow and just select the box as a whole, I can change the font and the size, but not up here. I need to do it through another window that gives me some of those same options. Window, type in tables, character. Okay, so here I can just choose a font and it'll change the font, it'll change the size. Oops, I made it too big. There we go. So yeah, I can do it with just the black arrow selecting it if I go through the character window. Character window repeats a lot of this stuff, but you can make changes using the black arrow. Okay, and those are pretty much the basics of using the tools in InDesign. We'll talk about starting a multi-page document and using master pages, grids and guides and that forth in our next video.